Hello and welcome back to Clockwork Dandy Noodles, the channel where Becca continues to break down spring 2021 anime, and it is an insane season full of absolutely insane shows, and this show is definitely one of my favourites at the moment. Make sure you guys are subscribed or you are going to miss out on my midway review, which is coming out in 8 days, so it is scheduled to go up on my channel May the 10th. Just so all the anime that I'm watching hit around 6 or 5 episodes in. I want them to be roughly halfway. Vivy will be slightly ahead, but I think Vivy started airing a little bit earlier. Make sure you guys do not miss it because I will be listing off my top OPs, my EDs, and how we are currently standing on top 3 anime. Will Vivy be making any of those lists? So make sure you guys tune in for it. There is a Discord channel for you guys too, to sneak, lurk, get notified whenever videos go up on your channel. It goes straight to your phone and it is a great way of keeping in the loop, and you can lurk and you do not even have to say a word. It is a great way that I am planned to reach to you guys and keep you guys up to date in the future. So let's kick off with this killer episode, the episode which we need to talk about at the end as well because it's done a few things for the story. This is episode 6, where we're going to open straight on some backstory for Tatsuya, where we're going to kick right off with some symbolism. And I love me some symbolism, and we've got some shattered roses up on the floor. Yellow roses mean friendship. Generally, they are a good colour to give to somebody friendship-wise. They're also significant of youth. They are quite a lively character, so this might be hinting at the relationship that he starts to get with the AI, the fact that it goes beyond friendship because it's smashed upon the floor, but it also might be a bit of foreshadowing that this is only going to end in heartbreak. The overexposed window is something we've seen quite a bit within Vivy. When it comes to being trapped within the AI mainframe, Vivy can't see outside because the outside world does not exist. At this point, it might just be that the world outside is so bright that he can't see outside. Everything around him is overexposed. As we see that Tatsuya was left alone with an AI as his family ended up going elsewhere, living a life and abandoning him, which is a very tragic beginning for a character who actually has quite the tragic end as well. Our AI and original Grace ends up singing Vivy's song, which gives us an amazing link, knowing exactly who she is. We know that she's linked to Vivy. But it also gave me my first initial thought that the mother core, the AI within Metal Float, was Grace. Of course, I couldn't initially work out why there were 2 Graces, but I knew that the Metal Core, because of the way that the anime is going with all these coincidences, had to be related to Vivy. It just had to. There's too many coincidences now for it to be coincidence. Finally, we have our Toke member awakening, the man who has been saved twice by Vivy within our story so far, and we get a cello solo. A cello is a fantastic instrument. It is my favourite instrument. It carries a very rich, deep tone, often conveying a darker, sadder emotion. This man as well, finally knowing who she is, her ID, demanding that she tells him the truth, what the hell she actually plans to do. But he also calls her broken. So he likens her to Elizabeth, the Elizabeth reveal at this point. He was the man who saved Elizabeth initially from the scrap heap. But I do have to question, did he care initially for Elizabeth? Because he doesn't seem to show anything at surface level. I like the fact that we are essentially joining forces, but not quite. So the cube tells him that we both kind of have the same goal. He wants to shut the island down, so does she. But it is definitely proving that there's no coincidence that this man now is playing such a key role, and he's been a constant within our story so far. He keeps showing up. He is very important. He's definitely going to be playing probably a bigger role in the next sequence perhaps, because I think he's coming back. But we're going to see him getting older and older as he ages up each gap. The Professor Tatsuya has perhaps played everybody. He has not quite told the truth. So whatever he gave Vivy initially was supposed to shut down the island, and it hasn't. So there is definitely something going on, a bigger story, something he's not told everybody. But we then get some more backstory confirming that Grace is indeed connected to Vivy. But in the second meeting, we see that we've kind of pushed the story along a little bit, where we see them now developing further feelings, going perhaps deeper into love, and why the song being played is being replayed on repeat, because it's the song that Grace absolutely loves from her older sister Vivy, and she just sings it over and over, and because the two essentially shared the same goal, to make humans happy through their jobs, through their missions. We also get a bit of information on the ideology behind our angry Toke Man. I know he's got a name and I just missed it in the first episode, and since then we haven't been given his name. I've been listening for it, but we haven't been given it. But he believes that AI must follow humans. They must do as they are told. They have to stay in line. He's against AI now because he fears there's going to be an uprising. Well, his fear is definitely a legitimate concern because we know we're heading towards a war. He fears that the AI will become independent, so he is trying to sabotage AI, trying to knock him back a few pegs. Vivy announces her mission to him, that her mission is to make everybody happy, where we finally get to see a bit of a 360, the man saving Vivy. It maybe alleges to a bit of a turn for him. Maybe it's finally a bit of a turn as he sees that perhaps she is actually on his same team as him. But it's also finally payback for the fact that she has saved him twice. When Vivy announces her mission to make everybody happy, we do see a bit of a quick flashback to this boy. This boy has a connection to music somehow, perhaps the piano. Not quite sure what that's going to be, but I know that at some point this man's backstory, this man is going to be very important to the story. We have to save Grace. More backstory, showing us the moment that Tatsuya proposes to Grace. Maybe kind of hinting that there might be some freedom within the code, but there is still just a code. Because she does state that she would only marry Tatsuya, it has to be Tatsuya, so that is a choice. But at the same time, she understands that marrying a human would further her understanding of humans. So this also lines up with her mission. So because it still plays into her mission, she's able to say yes. But we are starting to see the effects that I've been mentioning, is the idea of the butterfly effect. Changing history is starting to lead to this new twisted outcome. We're seeing events come faster and faster. They are coming at quite big speeds now. This was a 20-year gap. The way the sunrise ended up ending in this sequence has now led to this idea, the idea that AI now need to do more. They need to be able to sacrifice their own lives to protect humans. That is their ultimate goal. Estelle has set the bar for AI very, very high, and that put pressure on Grace. People saw Grace not now just as Grace, but as somebody who should step into the role that is Estelle, because she obviously was related to Estelle. She is the same model line, in a sense, she's a younger model. So they see her as somebody who can continue Estelle's legacy of sacrificing themselves. She becomes the motherboard, the heart, the core of Metal Float. In this, we start to see the power that humans really have. The idea of being able to completely rewrite somebody. They completely rewrite her soul, her mission. So it is a possibility that Vivy could have her goal, her mission swiped from her in the blink of an eye, which I think she even realizes that this could happen, this could be a thing. Tatsuya's initial goal was to save Grace and convert and put that data into the new model. There is two Graces for that reason. Second Grace is a copy of the original Grace, but he wishes, because of how much he loves her and he wants to see her fulfill her original goal, not this new goal that's been shoved upon her. He wants to save her. So when the code is supposed to shut the island down, he stops it initially because he wants to get time to convey this data, but it ends up turning all the AI, or the island in a sense, because the AI and Grace are one, it turns it into a kind of overdrive where it wants to protect itself and it senses a threat, so it starts to destroy anything within its area. We get a nice little visual of a red filter clashing with a blue filter. The red filter is danger, love and passion, whilst the cold controlled blue is also visible. It is the opposite of the red, perhaps showing us initially the visual that Tatsuya is completely split with his own beliefs. He wants to close down the island, but at the same time he needs to save Grace, but at the same time he also understands when Vivy tells him that her mission is to save everybody, save the casualties. Split starts to begin, showing that him too is having these split determinations in his head. He must have a bit of a conflicted head at this moment in time. He believes that Grace has been calling out forever with her song, calling out for help, but Vivy is told that it is impossible to save her. The virus cube asks her again and again, does it sound like singing? Is it really singing you're hearing right now? And what we're really hearing is nothing more than just data input. Vivy is set to destroy Grace. Her ultimate mission and Grace's ultimate mission was to protect human lives. And this is where the two original goals mesh together. Vivy needs to destroy Grace to achieve this output, and she knows that Grace too, if she understood that it was to make human lives happier, to save humans, Grace would also accept that her death was inevitable and needed. Her initial sharing of the goal to Tatsuya for the future shocks the virus cube, but also shows that she is determined to reach their combined missions. This is probably the first time we see the cube and Vivy on the same page officially. We get our obligatory eye shot of the week because this section is absolutely gorgeous, and these eyes, just as much as we know these are just cameras, these are the eyes of an AI. There is real pain within these eyes. Vivy absolutely decimates the replica of Grace. We get a fun moment for the virus cube as he shows us some of his abilities. He's able to control the entire production line to create more copies of himself, which kind of allows him to level up. And I like the fact that he's like, look what I made! As he is like kind of really proud of what he has created. Oh my god, it's kind of scary thinking that there's a whole horde of these things now. The CGI briefly kicked in and I briefly noticed it, but the next sequence just kind of made up for everything. The next sequence is absolutely stellar. It is amazing. The next sequence is fantastic as we see Vivy and the virus cube merging together to fly. It is our fly through the metal float. I would play this. This really plays as a bit of a game level where you're having to do your best to dodge all these incoming attacks, these waves of enemies. You got to fly through, you keep the flying mobile going, you got to keep the virus cube going forward. The camera work at this point is absolutely fantastic. We see these waves of enemies coming at her. So don't lose a life at this point, guys. You've got to keep going, keep flying, keep making it to the end of the level. As we scale the tower, this amazing sequence, seeing these hordes of waves, these explosions going off around her, seeing Vivy coming through it. The virus cube saves Vivy at one point. Absolutely love the fact that he finally kicks in as well. Seeing him pairing up with her, knocking original 205 from last week out of the way. 205 actually ends up weakening her, damaging Vivy, and it's quite a sad moment because she remembers this happy robot. Seeing her actually weakened and damaged by 205, Tatsuya is finally moved to send her the coordinates. And it feels like this is the next point in the level. If this was a game, you've finally done enough damage, you're at the top of the tower, Tatsuya now sends you this message. You have the coordinates for your final end mission of this level. But it's heartfelt as Tatsuya is in tears at knowing that Grace is going to meet her demise. The OP song being remixed, played over this amazing soundtrack, the sequence as well. It's just killer and it really works. There's making it a bit more upbeat, giving it this upbeat, more quicker pace. I think it's a little bit faster than the original OP. It backs the action fantastically. We're hitting our climax when we get the vocals kicking in once more. Upon seeing Grace, the final boss is destroyed with just one power hit. As she is smiling upon her death, she's at least smiling. She seems at peace with everything. As we finally move into the end of the sequence, the end of the song playing out, as the strings gradually play us out on a more softer, happier note. Metal Float finally lays silent. We have the end of a song after this high-octane sequence. The final sequence at the start, essentially, at the same place that the original timeline began, with them actually proposing to in this church. This church was supposed to be the beginning of their actual their engagement. This was supposed to be the beginning of the original singularity point. It's now officially the end. We actually initially come in with a pillar in between the two, showing the initial divide between human and AI. There will always be something within the way. Tatsuya had planned to initially have his wedding in this church, but it was an inevitable end, and I kind of figured it would end badly for the guy as Tatsuya commits suicide, triggering a bit of a feel moment for me as well, because it was so sad that the reason Tatsuya wanted to live is now gone and he has no other reason to live. Where we get the blue and red contrast once more, blue and reds being a complete opposite, a contrast to one another generally. We've got two different colour bloods now staining Vivy's hands. Her hands are stained with the bloods of both AI and human. And we can see right at the end, Vivy's starting to be more and more conflicted as her mission plays out over all the sequences that she's just done, all the people who have lost their lives so far. Perhaps this is going to have an adverse effect on Vivy in the long run. It was a killer episode. Absolutely love it. Have to give credit to this anime, this episode in particular, because Vivy's score on Mal has now jumped to 8.4. It's gone up a whole % after this episode has aired. So you guys too also absolutely love this episode. The sequence at the core of the episode, to the core, was just insane. The CGI worked fantastically. Having these camera angles, having your vision, your perspective as you kind of dodge around, trying to dodge all the waves. It played like a complete level of a game. I really like this. The heartbreaking end really cutting us down to earth, that there, as much as we are on the ultimate goal to save as many people as we can, there will still be tragedies along the way. People are going to lose their lives. People will have to make sacrifices. There's going to be people who lose in the way to getting this ultimate goal. But we have got to start questioning, are things really going right? Are things actually really going according to plan? Because it doesn't seem like they are. Vivy has blood on her hands. How is this going to affect her? But is this really the right thing to do? Are we really doing the right thing? Because the war that is coming our way seems to be approaching even faster. It seems to be speeding up. This event is 20 years early. Is the next event going to be 50 years, 30 years, even more years early? We are really speeding the timeline up with these events. Things are starting to pick up at a very scary pace. But are we causing the war? Are we actually initially going to be the cause of the war coming sooner? Is the war inevitable? Can it really be stopped? The Toke meeting with Vivy, as well as he finally saves her, is a great turning point for him, but I definitely expect to see him next Singularity Point. Today's episode was absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed today's episode. The climax, the resolution to this little arc. The arc, even though it was 2 episodes essentially, still did enough to make me feel for Tatsuya at the end as he's taking his own life because he's lost the very meaning to his own life. It made me feel. So it's done enough. Even though it's a very quick arc and it's very, very paced, this anime is paced. But I like the pacing. I think the pacing works because there's such a huge span that we've got to cover. So we could actually get stuck. We could even fall into a bit of a pitfall of spending too much time and letting things drag out and kind of essentially lose their way, lose their impact. The fact that it is so fast, we have this initial impact every time. The loss of a life this episode doesn't feel like it's coming out the blue. I felt enough to feel sad for the guy, feel really sad that he was dead laying on the floor. And I really am looking forward to where we go next. Our next arc looks interesting. The name Ophelia is a name in the real world that doesn't have a good connotation with it. If we go into the story of Ophelia ends up taking her own life, and there's that famous painting of Ophelia, of her laying in a body of water surrounded by flowers, as we've got Beauty finally taking her own life. This doesn't bode well for the next arc, of course. So I cannot wait to see where Ophelia is going to take us. Where are we going next in the story? I hope you guys too are having a great time with Vivy and loving it as much as I am. I will see you guys hopefully next week. Thank you once more for tuning in. You guys are fantastic. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.